People not wanting to embrace change. Let's go to that just for before the end of the session. I want to make sure that we look at this. And I'll say this at the very beginning. I don't have the answers. I don't have something that I can say, oh yes, this is what you need to do. Not at all. This is coming from, number one, years of experience and trying to gather it so that there is some type of either system or some concepts that I recommend or that I would do myself. I know this for sure, and so do you. The resistance to change, it's going to happen. Yeah, that absolutely is a fact. Now, what I have found with leaders is sometimes we try to operate in a situation that there isn't, where there's peace and calm. And that's a mistake, I think, that even as leaders, we have to learn how that with our positions, there's going to be resistance. I used to tell my leader team, when they gave their weekly updates, if there weren't challenges somewhere within these 3,500 people, if they'd say, oh, sir, everything's fine here, you may not be doing your job. There's got to be challenges. There's challenges everywhere. So I didn't want those small challenges to all of a sudden become something major that we were going to have to face. So I think you have to just be aware of it. I think that things that will certainly help if you have, as a leader, created a climate of trust. If you have trust among your group, like in this group right here, I would hope that there would be a level of trust so that if there was some type of change or even something would happen that would fall in your area, that you could sit here and discuss it respectfully, realizing there could be differences of opinion, but at the same time, you trust one another. The second bullet, I'm going to talk a little about something called the results pyramid, and then 3 leadership skills and some 5 general principles. And let me begin with just giving an overview of what's called the results pyramid. And for me, this was really an eye-opening experience for me, because the majority of my leadership career, I was just basically operating with the top half of that pyramid. And I'll explain what I'm talking about. If, for example, let's take your example with the soccer, okay? Suddenly it's powered down, and you're told this is what basically is going, the end result is this new plan. Now, the actions, and basically with the actions, it would be getting people to abide by that plan, because that new plan has desired outcomes that people up above have decided that if these actions happen, then the result will be whatever. I mean, it's improved soccer in New Zealand for the communities or whatever, right? Yeah. Okay, so everyone's clear. They know what the result, what they want. And they basically have dictated or have said, here are the actions. The challenge we have, the resistance comes because the people are telling us that they don't want to act that way. They question it. Well, as a coach, because I controlled playing time and things like that, a lot of times I didn't dig down into the bottom half of the pyramid. I would just want them to change their action. You're going to do it this way. Players in, you know what they would do? They wanted to play, so they would do enough in order to get their playing time, but their heart really wasn't in it. And what I said before, if someone's heart isn't into something, if they're just doing it for compliance enough to get playing time, then basically as a coach, I'm failing because I'll never get that player or my team to be as great as they could. So when there's something new and people are starting to voice their opinions, we have to dig down deep enough to understand the next layer. It's the beliefs. Why do people believe that the way that if they don't like the new plan, they evidently have beliefs. We need to find out what those are. And you also need to find out, well, people believe things because of the experiences they've had years before. So if you're truly going to help someone, and this is really important, and let's say you're the leader and you put this new plan in, okay, understand that don't just operate with the top half and just say, well, do this, do this, do this. They're going to fight you on it. You need to make sure that you understand why they don't want to do it. In other words, their beliefs. Sit down with them. Okay, why do you think this isn't going to work? Well, they may tell you, well, it's based on 10 years of me doing it and all these other things. Well, then if you can get that piece of information from someone or a group of people, then the key to leading change is you are going to need to try to find a way to provide experiences. Number one, get their minds open enough that they're willing to attempt something, and then provide experiences that will show them, ooh, maybe this will work. I think in our lives, all of us have been someplace where initially we didn't think something was going to work, but we were kind of proven wrong because you saw later, if you were open and you went through some of the experiences, you thought, wow, okay, this may. The odds I know you're working against the odds. That's why resistance to change and leaders trying to put different change into groups is very difficult. It's probably the most difficult thing to do. What this helped me to do was get to know people better and understand that people's experiences will foster their beliefs. If I ask you right now, what do you really believe? Well, you will probably tell me, you can probably even trace it back in your life to experiences that you had, or even into your upbringing as far as what people told you, whether it was accurate or inaccurate, but there were experiences that you had that fostered your beliefs. Now, once I believe something, when I believe something, you know what? I'm really going to do it. The things that you really believe, people will give their lives up for it. So in other words, beliefs influence actions. And then those actions are the ones that produce the results. That's what I gained from the results pyramid as far as, okay, fine, understanding that I believe in people. I really do, and I enjoy people. But I realized I could do a better job when people started opposing me or any of my initiatives, is to take a step back and listen and try to understand why they are opposed. What are their beliefs? And then what are they basing their beliefs on? Because once I got that, then, and I would try to do that before I ever released anything. Once you release it, I mean, you really need to have done all that with your leader team, trying to do a sample and find all the key governing bodies throughout the country or something where you're trying to gain support and get them to understand why you would be doing this. If you just throw it out and roll it out, it can be really difficult. And I think that's a mistake. I did that once, and it was really a mistake. And I actually got into a room and announced to a big group of people what we were going to do. Wow, was that a mistake? Because all those different teams and all those different organizations, you know what they did? They just bonded together against me and the change I was going to make. The next time in my career when I had the opportunity to do that, boy, I individually basically took organization by organization, key influential people, sat down at a small table with a handful of people and talked about it. You had to build alliances. If you're going to be the one making all this change, okay, build alliances. That's an absolute key. Let's look into the principles. Number one is, first principle is, if you're going to attempt cultural change without the buy-in of your leader, like if you're doing something here and you think you're going to, okay, fine, you're sure this is right, and in your little circle you're going to change the culture, you're going to do all these different things. If you don't have the buy-in of the person up above you or the CEO, whoever the person is, it's not going to succeed, so be careful. The second thing is, make sure you understand the results and so that you're able to clearly help people so that they can put their activity and their energy and effort into what the initiative is. This is going back to, I think someone even said it right here, about can't see the bigger picture. Leading change, you have to try to listen first of all, and then help people. Initially, it's just trying to get someone to have their mind open. Sometimes the very first meeting I would have with someone, it would just be, okay, fine. I'd ask questions and just try to get their mind open to potential change. And then eventually, once I had a better understanding where they were coming from as far as their beliefs, then I would try to help them see why the change was needed. But the bottom phrase is the most important, how the change is going to benefit them. People will probably stay very resistant to you until you can somehow get them to realize there may be benefit to them. If you're a leader and you're leading change, start with teams that are within your organization that are pretty intact, that you know that you have the highest chance of them supporting you. One time I tried to go the other way. I thought, okay, fine. Let's get these people that aren't on board, and they're really not on board. We need to get them going. Wow, you spend 95% of your time with them. You may change them a little bit like this. What worked the best for me at West Point is this whole concept of getting, I call it, you have a team of teams. Like in this organization, you have one big team, but within this organization, you have all these other teams. So it's a team of teams. Get your small teams intact and get them on board, and then try to connect this team with this team with this team. Next thing you know, you have a greater percentage of your big team where they're on board with the change, and slowly but surely you can win the war. It's really difficult. Here's the other piece of it too. When you're going to make a change, assure people at the very beginning, don't change all the things that are working. You've got to keep all the pieces that are working, keep those as the foundation, the pieces that are working, and then slowly integrate some of the new pieces. Instead of just saying, okay, fine, which I'm not quite sure if that's what happened with the soccer. I know a lot of organizations, they're going to have this big mass and a very massive change, and it's like the whole thing. Here we go. Here's what we're doing now. Can it work? Sure, it can work. It can meet a lot of resistance too. Sometimes if you can do it, take these new pieces that you want and integrate them into what you already have that you know a lot of people like, the pieces that are working, and you may improve your chances of it. You can read these things right here, but number 6 is one that a lot of organizations don't do a real good job of. There's got to be feedback, and there's got to be a loop throughout the whole organization that people feel like they're being heard.
Will we get a handout with these notes?
Will you? Oh, yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you might be wanting us to.
Here's a sample. This is actually something that this is a personal case that I did at West Point. The next slide will show it, but I think I left it on. I may not have come to think of it. But if you look at it, how to reduce resistance, the very first thing, number 1, then number 2, identify the beliefs, introduce the new belief, describe new experiences. Let's see, hopefully it's there. Yeah. Okay. I won't go through it step by step. I mean, if you get the slides, you can look at it and you'll have my contact information. This was it was a tough 3 years for me. So change is really, really difficult. I know that when I started it, it met a lot of resistance. I was able to get certain teams. I had 27 teams. I had some teams jump on board with it. There are seasons I was fortunate because they implemented it and they started winning more. Within the first 3 years, the number of national championships tripled. That really helped me. Then grade point averages of my team significantly increased. The academic side, they were thrilled. Disciplinary problems of my teams decreased. So, I mean, we started getting this, but it took time. After I retired, and then the program received global recognition. I mean, that's how I ended up in Singapore and actually in New Zealand. And so my wife came on the very first trip I was here. She was with me, and I gave a presentation just on our program. I learned a valuable lesson actually from my wife, because I gave a presentation and I went back. She was sitting in the audience, and we got back to the hotel. And I said, well, I was really proud of myself. You know, I thought, wow, this really went great. You know, people were great. It was well received. Everyone's, you know. And I said, well, honey, what'd you think? I mean, I thought it was great. She looks at me. She says, really? I said, yeah. She says, you didn't tell the whole story. She says, I think really you might have done a little bit of a disservice to those people. I said, really? Yeah. She says, you never once talked about what life was like for you for the first 3 years. You didn't talk about all the difficulty and how tough it was to get this change implemented. So she was right. It's easy. I think I had gotten to the point where all these wonderful things, the results, all these great things that happened, that I didn't tell people how tough it was. So when you're leading something like this, or at any level, be prepared. The resistance is really tough. You've got to be street smart in how you introduce it. And be careful. You have to protect yourself because something huge that you're going to change, how you introduce it to your team and your team leaders. And they're the ones that are in the trenches. They're the ones, actually, like you're the ones that are out there talking to these people, fielding their complaints and all that. The closeness that a team has to have to go through this. I had the best leader team that helped me keep my head above water, and what they ended up doing, they could see the traps and they helped me avoid the traps. I could have probably very easily, without a good leader team, walked into more and more situations and really made it more difficult. This thing is really, just probably even what you're experiencing now with the soccer. I mean, actually, my heart goes out to the people that are trying to do it, because that's tough. That kind of gives a little bit of just an overview. And you can see this is heartfelt for me, because I know how much of my life I put into this. And actually the joy that a lot of the joy I have right now, because people will say, well, after you retired, what happened to the program? And the neat thing about it is that when you lead change, and it has nothing to do with me as a leader, if you do it right, it becomes part of the culture. And when it's part of the culture, then it just continues not just to live on, but to even grow and get stronger and stronger. So, okay. Here's what I'd like to run. Okay, I'm respectful of your time. We have 10 minutes, and in the 10 minutes that we have, there's one thing that I really would like you to see. I'd like to go through greatness as a byproduct real quick, and I wish I could come back someday and really talk to you about culture, because culture drives results. You as leaders, the most important thing you can end up doing, because you win with people, you know that. Well, the culture of your organization is absolutely the key thing in order to becoming great. Greatness is a byproduct. You can say that when I talk to coaches, I talk about winning. Winning is a byproduct. It's a byproduct of three things. Talent. You got to have a level of talent. It was absolutely essential for me at my level. In order to keep my job, I needed to at least have comparable talent to all the other teams. So what I'm saying is, don't think that you can do this with people that are very, very weak or not talented. You got to have a certain level of talent. But what I always wanted, I'd get that level of athlete, but I needed to get them so that they could have a competitive advantage. The talent opens the door. It gets you in the game. But talent alone is never enough. Think about it. I'm sure right now you could think about athletes that were very talented, individual athletes, teams that were very talented, that never produced at the level that you knew that they should have. There's two more key pieces. One is leadership. When we develop athletes, we looked at not only their talent, but if they were the type of leader that we wanted. There's got to be strong leaders at all levels. As a director, the people that I hired as coaches, very, very important. You have to have strong talent at the top. But then I also wanted players, and I wanted players, and they wouldn't do this unless our system had them think this way. Every team member is a leader. Like right now, if I ask everyone in here, I'd be really disappointed if you didn't say you were a leader, because you are a leader. I wanted all my coaches not only to think they were coaches, they're teachers, they're leaders. I wanted my players to understand they're leaders. And by this I'm talking about with leaders, the leadership roles for an athlete, there's 4 of them. And it starts right here. This is where I say everyone is a leader. Think about it. Even in youth sport, whatever it is, help them understand. Whether you use the word leader, I don't care what you end up using, but before you can lead others, you got to lead yourself. The TLC program that I'm working as a pilot study is all geared on self-leadership and getting young athletes to understand these different things, and which I think is absolutely critical. So getting your team so that they understand self-responsibility, so they know when they have a training session, they're not only going to be there, they're going to be there 10 minutes early, they're going to be there on time. The self-confidence, the self-belief, all these different things, I think it's absolutely critical. The next piece is character. And the character, and this is a very strong belief that I got from Coach Wooden, it takes character to keep you on top. It takes talent, it takes leadership, but then it takes character to really keep you on top. It serves as the foundation for both individual and team greatness. What makes this program a little bit different probably, is that we like to think of character, there's two types. There's the moral character, and that's what most of us think of when we think of character. But there's also something called performance character. It's becoming a little bit of a buzzword in the States. I really like it. I've been using it for years because it's my way of connecting with coaches. My personal experience is, as I worked with coaches, if I said the word character, that kind of, another one of those guys talking about character. My job depends on wins. Someone else can teach them character. I got to get the wins. But the neat thing about it, and I have evidence, is that you'll win more on the scoreboard as long as you have a certain level of talent. It may not be the very best, but as long as you have a certain level of talent and you have leaders, self-leaders, and team leaders, and character, wow, that's a tremendous advantage. Now, performance character, if you read that, you can see it's all the traits or attributes that help someone be successful in a specific environment. Okay, so think about the sport that you're in. Don't think about the skill per se, but what makes that athlete really tough in tennis or soccer, whatever it may be. And right away you may be thinking, boy, they have some type of mental toughness. They're this. The effort, the drive, the determination, the perseverance. Those are the types, and see, that's us. That's the performance character. All those different words up there. Now, when I talk to a coach, a lot of times I don't even say the word perform or the whole thing about character. What I want to know is, if I come watch your soccer team, what am I going to see? What are you really proud of? And they'll probably say something about effort, or you're going to tell me, boy, my girls they dive on the floor for loose balls. All these different things. That's what you're going to see. You're going to see teamwork. Well, the minute I hear any of those words, then I know, hey, that coach probably is one of the best teachers there is in something that I'm calling performance character. The only piece that somehow you have to get individuals to understand is that not all values are equal. You could have, and I'll give you a quick example. Moral character will trump performance character. You could have someone that robs banks. They could put a lot of effort into it. They're very determined. They're passionate about robbing that bank. All these different things. It depends on how you're using, so you got to be careful. So moral character will trump performance character, but when you put it together and teach it the right way, that's a powerful force. And that can be a real edge for players. So I think that with this, today, I hope we look at, we talked about greatness, but then we went into the principles of greatness. When you get the slides, take a look at it. Take a look at the principles, those 5 principles, and look how it fits into your life, into the life of the team that you're on right now. If you're involved with coaching, think about the way that your coaching is impacting young people in those 5 areas. Because I think you'll find, like I did, that if you can get some touches there, it's amazing. You're helping them learn things that will help them now and later. The greatness is a byproduct. We just covered that. And I didn't know whether or not we were going to have enough time. But that's sometime, next time when I'm back, I'd love to be able to talk about culture and your culture that is on your team right now, or as a leader, how to help your team develop a culture of greatness. So, hey, thank you very much. I mean, this is, I really appreciate your time, and I look forward to hopefully seeing all of you, and good luck with all these different things. I mean, when I say good luck, I mean all these things, are they legitimate challenges? Wow, yeah. But the thing with all these, I always say this, none of these should or will break your spirit. See, that's the most important thing. That's one thing. Take control of the 2 things you can control in life. The 2 things you can control in life is your attitude. That's that optimism, that belief. I wake up in the morning, I own that. I take great pride in that. I own my attitude. A lot of things can happen during the day. It's up to me to keep a positive and optimistic attitude. The second thing I control my actions, my effort. So continue driving forward with all those things. I can see there's a lot of talent in this room. A lot of you are accomplishing great things. Don't minimize yourselves, and don't look at it. Look big. Look in the mirror and be proud. So, hey, thank you. Appreciate it.